Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Autocrat Primer, where we love toys. And something that I just got received was something that Super 7 has had to put out to our Value Super 7 supporters last week. Was really hard. As many of you heard, we had to make the difficult decision to let team members go. These are the people who are doing the best work in the industry. None of them deserve to be let go. I want to be clear that this educated staff is a direct result of the tariffs applying to our industry um, preceding 6 months before the tariffs announced have been Super 7's best since the inception of the company nearly 24 years ago. Then the landscape changed overnight. Make no mistake, the tariffs is a tax on American companies and American consumers. The people who lost their jobs last week were Americans across 16 different states. 145% tariffs affected our business, shut our business down, bringing new inventory leaving the factory to zero. Companies and massive tariffs on pre-orders produced already on the water headed to the consumers. This week's change in tariffs to 30% is still a massive increase to the industry and requires significant change to work within. Now, a lot of people, if you don't know, you also had Diamond Select Toys also ended up letting go their toy department completely, and then a lot of their iOS and their boards of doing with comic books, they have terminated the tech department also, but that comes from the fact of the bankruptcy. Now, Super 7, what they haven't told, but you could see with your consumers, is the fact that if you look at your Super 7 figures, they're all made out of China. So all the factories that they use and everything is out of China. So the tariffs did hit Super 7 really hard, and apparently has caused it to let go certain designers. But also, Super 7 wasn't really creating their own product. They were doing a lot of stuff that was licensing of other products, such as licensing for G.I. Joe from Hasbro, dealing with also Thundercats, and what I love is their Silverhawks line. Then on top of that, you take a look at the different rock bands and the different reaction figures that they have that come out. Overall, these are all licensed product that they make. They don't really make their own toy line. So that's how their company has always worked. And it was based off of saying, we love toys and that's why we make toys, is for the toy collector. The problem that has happened is that, yes, these tariffs are affecting these companies, but they also have been able to get and do really well by not having to deal with the tariffs. And so a lot of the companies have not had to ever deal with that side of things. And now that this is happening, it's supposed to make things on an equal level. I know a lot of people, even Hasbro has allegedly said that they're thinking about pulling out of the American product or the American consumer altogether with Transformers. I find that that would be more or less a shot in their foot. Their company is already teetering on the possible, at the beginning, a possible bankruptcy dealing with Hasbro. So overall, the toy company itself is having to be has to be reassessed and has to look and say, okay, have we been doing the right thing? Have we been balancing out? Were we robbing Peter to pay Paul? A lot of things like this. And this has also happened in the comic book industry too. And this is what happens when you're relying on, and let's just be honest, it's slave labor. You're relying on slave labor where you're sitting there and you're going to get the cheapest worker to work for you so that you can then have a bigger income where you're betting on cheap labor to pay for those license and all this other stuff. And what these tariffs are doing is bringing it to the forefront and saying, hey, you got to be more balanced. And a lot of these companies have not done that. They've not balanced very well. They have gone by the bare necessity, or they have had a lot of the people in the higher ups get a lot of money. Now, Super 7 is not so much that way like Hasbro and Mattel and the others, but you have to look at their portfolio and say, do we need to make licensing for all this different product? Is this product selling to make? And even though, they're relying on us to have our hearts go out, and it does go out to those families that lost their job, but at the same time, you have to look at it and say, hey, you are overseas, you're using factories overseas. Let's be honest, how much are you paying those people to put those products together? As a collector, it's making me reassess and go, do I want to support this hobby that has been so one-sided, that we as collectors are getting the figures we want, but at what is the cost? And what happens when there's no kids getting toys? And that's really what needs to be done. My heart goes out to them. I hate that this has happened to them. I love their reaction line for the G.I. Joes. I've been enjoying getting those. I still plan to get those, but I did not see them even release anything for a third or fourth wave yet. And each wave they've done has been for the new Reaction Plus line. That's like the figures you would have got as a kid for G.I. Joe's, the 3 3/4. They've only released maybe 4 or 5 characters per wave, and they've only had 3 waves total. So I don't know what that's going to do with that toy line, but that goes to show that these things do affect people. But at the same time, were you really being diversified? And if you were, or how much were you relying solely on cheap labor and not looking and saying maybe we needed to look at maybe factories closer to home? Just some food for thought. I know a lot of people say that can't be done, that can't happen, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of companies like Hasbro and Mattel have been using these outside sources and using the American market to pay for them, to pay for that high volume and that price point, while they are making a lot more money on each figure. I guarantee you the figures don't cost that much. But then again, Super 7's different. They had to do a lot of licensing out, and they had to buy a license, and they do that. And I like their product. I really hate to see this. But that is the times that we're living in. And some of their figures were really expensive. It didn't make sense to me why some figures were like $50-$60 whenever they were only a 6-inch figure. But hey, there you go. It goes to show you, to let you know that this is affecting everybody. Y'all have a good one. Bye, guys.